Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. In today's podcast, the focus is going to be a little bit on moving ourselves forward, taking the bull by the horns and keep on moving, keep on doing things. Even though sometimes we don't see things happening, but we're getting slapped from the left and right, middle and center, and you're like, okay, I barely stand up. Yoo-hoo, here we go again. So keeping the faith, which I think sometimes is more challenging than any other days, being able to really articulate where our needs are, where we need to be, regardless of the outer conditions, because one of the most challenging part of it are the outer conditions we're in. And it can be discouraging when nothing seems moving on the front of us, or it's going in a direction that is not a positive direction. When you get slammed, let's say you see one bill coming and you get another one when you think you get your head out of the water and you're like, okay, we should be fine for now, and it's like slam with another one and you get another situation and it's like, okay, how do we stay calm? Or you get up in the morning and your printer jam and you're like, oh boy, then you go and have to meet people. This is not where you're supposed to meet them somehow. Cross communication on this one. And then things go down the pipe and you're like, okay, I'm going to lose it or not. Or you're forgetting your keys and then you realize you needed your keys. It could spiral down very quickly into the rabbit hole and you have to keep it together. Because you know that if you are not, then the energy you're just emanating is going to come back 10 times fold towards you. And you're like, holy crapola, here's another situation. Then it's coming down for a day. Then you barely do it. Then you receive something else. It's like, I need a permanent cocktail. So those are the days where you have to find a way, even with sarcasm, how to get it together. And one of the hardest part is what kind of trauma have you experienced. It's not only the past trauma that you might have healed, but are the current one you're dealing with, and you're trying to move one step forward, which could be difficult at times, especially when you get triggers. One of the biggest things that I see happening is when things are changing and you're not being made aware of, then comes a problem where you can be triggered. And as you try to talk it out, you all of a sudden spiral down into that rabbit hole for a few minutes until you realize I need to walk away because this is not going to help me. That is triggering me, and this is not what we need here. So, thinking about the life in general where we are, things are changing actually, and I think we're already starting to feel it. Finally, things are changing, and I'm talking worldwide. I'm not talking only here on the front of me, but worldwide, because some balance have shifted finally, that we're gonna get things and bring more peace into this world finally. Instead than, I had a moment of reflection actually yesterday when that came across when I was reflecting for a little bit, that, in a time of war, the people who sell guns and ammos and everything else, this is their best time to thrive. They don't want peace because they want to sell their equipment. So we experiencing conflict after conflict, and nobody's stopping it because it's making good monies for a lot of countries around the world. It's not on one side, it's everybody. Now we need to go back to a time of peace where we can rebuild, and basically, that World War III stops, because people don't realize we're in World War III, which is even more interesting because people are like, well, we're going to go, well, we're already there. We are already there. It's a different war compared to the 1 and 2 because they involve technology as well. But we have to be more open to see those changes and go with those changes, which could be a little daunting at time. Now we're going to see the economy opening up. It is already opening up. Projects, company going to be thriving. I've done, it's like we went from a halting scratch stop to finally let's make the right move. And again, I don't do politics. I don't like to do politics because people get a little too, I would say, passionate about it to the point they don't want to hear anybody else's, or they go to the extreme like we have seen. But I got to make a comment and a statement because I'm an analyst. So when you're talking about spending and you're looking at those two individuals who run, one was $400 million and the other one a staggering $1 billion. I'm like, holy crap. I would have just said, okay, you know what? I caved. I go with my billion and have a nice day because this is a nice paycheck. Seriously, $1 billion? Do you imagine for $1 million? What would you do with $1 billion? That's the question I have for you. Think about it. If you had that opportunity coming and you got donors and people coming in your business, see them coming and paying you handsomely, and you make $1 billion with less than 6 months. That's about what she did, because she wasn't running less than 6 months ago. I think it's when did he got rolled over. There was an epic failure. They made the change without even telling anyone. May, something like that. Well, earlier this year. So doesn't matter. But do you imagine you end up with $1 billion? I am astonished of how quickly that $1 billion disappeared, and now you're in a negative minus $20 million. And you're looking at the other candidate who managed his fundings and everything else extremely tight. You see the business side of it. This is what I'm trying to get at it. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with business. How do you run a business? And he had over how many millions left? I think way over 30 million, something like that, 30, 40 million, something like that. I don't have the number under my eyes right now, but let's say over $20 million to be safe. So people don't go, hey, well. You can see he only had $480 million $480 million or something like that as this campaign to manage. So when you're managing your campaign, it's not only the volunteers, but it's your trips, it's the food, clothing, employees, because you do have volunteers, but you do have employees as well. And realizing that with $1 billion, you should be comfortable to run it tight, and it wasn't run tight at all. So to me, I was astonished because as an analyst, you have to be cautious, and you have to understand that as a business person, as an analyst, and if you have a home, you have a budget, okay? You manage a budget at home. You manage your budget on what's coming in, and you're looking at your bills, electrical, utilities, that include the phone, that include the gas, that include the electrical. And you're looking at your food, other expenses, maybe the internet, and you maybe have other things that you have to pay. Maybe a parking lot, maybe you're paying a fee on a monthly basis like HOA or something like that. So think about this. You got your budget, and you're keeping your budget as tight as you can, so you can have maybe something for, because you get your food to be included in there. But you have to, you want to go on vacation, so you're going to save some money for vacation. Maybe you need to replace an appliance, etc., 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 etc. Okay? Think about all of this and think about below $1 billion. And you ask yourself, I asked myself, because I even put it out there, I said, I would like to see the books, because I am astonished that you could spend that amount of money that quickly. Now, thinking about that, Oprah got $1 million allegedly not for herself, but for her company, which is like, really? Beyonce got $10 million. Is that Megan Stallion, whatever, $5 million. So you get people added to it, okay? But if you're managing, ask yourself, okay, if you're here, you want to, you pay somebody $10 million, it's like, look at the budget, look at how you're managing only this portion of it. Would it be wary then you let somebody, or imagine a president of a company, running a company down when your sale is going, but you're not making wise money management spending? And that happens every day. You have company who spend more than they're making because sales are good. So we're going to spend, we're not going to be frugal. We're going to be expensive. We're going to be loud. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. When you run a business, a campaign, and it can be any campaigns, okay, you have to manage the spending and you have to know where it is going to be allocated. If you're not cautious, you're going to end up in a red. This is what happened, unfortunately, for this candidate. The other one saved money at the end, but they managed it more tightly. The country has to be run as a business because it is a business. It is not a pop and mom shop. It is a business. And you have to really focus on the spending, which I'm glad, because by the time you're hearing this, and I recorded everything in October, so that was way prior to the elections, I am glad that Elon Musk has been appointed to look at the efficiency of the bureaucracy, because one of the biggest issues, and this is around the world, okay, that the same issue happen around the world. This is not only here in the US, it's everywhere else. But at least we're going to have somebody, because that was my thing that I talked about it on my past podcast, is efficiency. Looking at FEMA, looking at every offices over there and department, because there is 420 department within the government, because they create more than we needed. So we need to look at, one, the salary of the employees, because this is who we pay with our taxes. So I want to know what are their money, because I'm pretty much sure there is capital expenditure and discretionary accounts. You know, when you're a VP in companies, you have a discretionary account. It can go from $50,000 to $500,000. If you're a CEO, it could be to a couple millions of dollars if it's more. Discretionary account, you do whatever you want. They're not going to be questioning it. This is your account. That's how it works. So it will be good to see how it's going to streamline to make it easier. One of the biggest things that also needs to be looked at is the veterans affairs, because that has been the most horrifying bureaucrats than there is over there when the soldiers are coming back and need the supports with their families on finding lodging, mental supports, going, to the VA for any doctor's appointment and stuff like that, dentals. Sometimes it takes a lot for those guys to even being able to provide all of the information before they get their help. So it's going to be nice to see how Elon Musk is going to streamline all of this, because when you got 10 people and one can do the job, then those 10 other people can do something else. You don't need to create this, like it's what I said when I started the archives, and shared the story of the archives. When I started the archive for one of the companies from scratch, we epically failed the audit. That was done in purpose, even though I was ticked off on this one. But you have to take a blow in your face once in a while in order to, that sounds bad what I just say, take it for the team, quote unquote, in order to make the change. We had to fail this audit, and that was done in purpose. That gave us the white canvas to really build it up properly. Make the system easy. It's not like you're going to Fort Knox and putting gold over there. This is not what we're doing here, people. Same thing with the government. It should be lean, it should be efficient, and supporting the people, not make it so cumbersome that you want something, you're going to spend 10 hours waiting for something. But you have to look at, where do you need the people? Because sometimes some departments going to be over staffed, and some are not. If you're looking at the local government, a lot of people were working during COVID, what do you call it, from home, remote. But they don't have enough people to do that job. I was talking to somebody a while ago. It's like a year ago, and I was, getting them on the phone. It depends on the moment, but there is like, you could not call at 8 in the morning because it was already busy. And during the day, you could have a recording saying, oh, there is a huge amount of calls, blah, 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 call later. And you're like, oh, good Lordy. So sometimes it took a couple of days to talk to somebody, which is very difficult when you're trying to do your job. When you see, or you try to get an answer. But it's difficult for those individuals as well, because it's a call after a call after a call. You cannot, when you talk about different issues, it's not a 15 minutes or 10 minutes and we're done. Sometimes it takes a half an hour, 45 minutes for getting all of the information and provided what was needed. So it's very interesting when you're looking at all of this and trying to provide the right support, that it's not there. So when they're going to be looking at the efficiency, it should be the same for companies. You have to look at how my company is working efficiently. When you do merger and acquisition, it's one of the biggest things as well. When you do that, you have to look at what are the redundant work. And sometimes you don't have to get rid of the people, but you can reassign them or move them around to do something else. You have to think about, do we really need those people or not? Because sometimes they cut heads and then, we need to rehire it. We just did something wrong here. Or it's done in purpose to hire somebody cheaper that cannot do the job, and they're going to make you waste hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to speed it up if they want to stay, because that's another situation. When people feel they're underpaid, they're not staying. A lot of people don't realize that either. So ensuring that where we are in our efficiency, I am confident. I know a lot of people are going to feel like, I work for the government and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, see it as looking how we can work better. North Carolina, the Carolinas right now, Tennessee, Georgia's, they're still dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane. They have no help coming from the government because FEMA shoot themselves in the foot. There is camps set up, but we don't even know for what it is for, because there is nobody in there, but they are just right there set up. Whereas some families could go there and stay there, they don't have access to it. And it's the same in Florida too. So it's very interesting to see what's going on at this level. But it's like, how can we make it better? Because if we can make it better and being more efficient on responding to natural disasters, this will help a lot. Because right now, those boots on the ground are, a majority of them, volunteers that came from the surrounding states at their own penny and expenses, because they feel the duty to go and help. No one left behind. Finding people who passed away because they still have not recovered everybody, and continue to bring the truth, because the issue right now, and I am one of the keyboard warrior as well, is to ensure by passing on all of the information that I get from TikTok, from the boots on the ground, because I'm connected to a few people as well. What are the needs? What can we do? And continue to push the truth out there, because guess what? Mainstream media are not talking about this, and we should be talking about it. The question I have, and I will continue to tweet the new president coming in, or the returning president, and Elon Musk and everybody, to figure it out. Hey guys, we still need help, because this is what I've been doing as well on X. Not well, I did on the other on TikTok, but I do it on X actually. So being able to, having answers, but the support that the people need, because there is a lot of things for supplies, the mold, sprays that needed over there as well. So there is a lot of things, but think about efficiency. How efficient are you in your own business, in your own life? Are you budgeting everything? How do you work out everything? How do you manage your life? Because some people, we call it panier percé. We call it's a basket, but basket without a bottom. Basically, it's full of holes. So when you put the money in, it goes down on the ground. So it's looking at where we are, what we can do, and continue to push to the next level. But I think it's going to be interesting to watch, and I think it's a learning session. It will be a learning session for all of the biggest company as well, to looking at the efficiency of their processes. The problem I have with bigger company, they have a tendency to fired I don't want to call it the little people, because it's not little people, but fired everybody except keeping management. Well, management doesn't need to be there when you got the people, the boots on the ground. If you got the boots on the ground, minimum management is what it's needed. But when you create a hierarchy where you got different level of management, you can create that grain of salt as well. So this is food for the thoughts, and it was for Monday. Yay! So we'll talk later for Wednesday. I have no idea what we're going to be talking about, but just food for the thoughts. And I found it quite interesting. As I said, I am shocked that $1 billion got spent. $1.02 billion got spent. I'm floored by it. I don't know. It's just like, how did you do that, and how quickly have you burned? It's like, you must have had no one to watch your checkbook and balance the book, because I thought about my older sister, and I don't talk about my sisters, but my older sisters used to be a panier percé, and you give the money, she could spend that $1 billion in 15 minutes. She could even beat those guys. And I always been surprised by how she, when we were younger, that changed since then, but she went the opposite side. But when we were younger, you would have given her $20, it was gone in less than 5 minutes. Totally gone. It's like, how did you do that? So the joke for us was, yeah, don't give her $1 million, because she can spend that money like crazy. But I don't know, when I saw that reminds me of my sister, and I'm like, gee, they must have talked to her, because it's like, wow, that's a lot of money spent in such a short amount of time. So that is called mismanaging money. That is something that really, if you're looking at people and how they run things, look at the finances part of it. Not if, let's say, things happen in your life that you're gonna go with the up and down. I'm talking when time is good and you give the same amount of money to everybody and see how they're spending it. Watch your mate. If you maybe are in a relationship with somebody, watch your mate. See how they're spending their money. Maybe it should be a red flag, because you don't want to spend your time making money and them just throwing it out. But you have to look at how to manage things. So for me, Elon Musk is going to be a great, I would say, example of how to run more efficiently. I know there's going to be a lot of resistance from people, because when you start to just saying that, people freak out. They're all going to quit left and right. But you have to look at, how can we have a system that works efficiently? We don't need to store gold in Fort Knox when we're talking with people from the government. If we have something then we need for medical, even elderly people, Medicare, simplify things. I like the idea also that he had. Why should somebody that they prepare for their retirement, why should you continue to pay taxes when this is the money they put and save for retirement? To me, and that's around the world. It's not only here, but it's like, no, stop taxing the older people. No wonder nobody can make ends meet, because if every time, instead than having a check of 1,000 or $1,500, to be able to function for the entire month, or $2,000, whatever they attach, they're getting, and half of it is gone or a third of it is gone. How do you live? The price have, and I'm glad it's gonna go down with the inflation. It's gonna go down. It's gonna take a deep dive, because some of the spending that's been happening outside of the U.S. are gonna be cut it out. So that's mean the billions of dollars that should have helped Hurricane Helene, we might be going to get the help in that direction. But at least there will be no extra spending on some stuff that it's like, oh, wow. But you know what? This is not only here in the U.S., it's everywhere else, because some of the other countries are doing the same thing. So I'm hope with the model in the efficiency, because he brought smart, bright people on board, and they know how to do what they do. That's why they're billionaires. Then this is a great thing and a good example that we should be looking at, not criticize, because people are going to be like, oh, no. In order to run efficiently, we have to make changes. And not only this, but you want the user experience, the people who need the help, who need the stuff, and they don't get it, or it's a real battle. We're going to get it easier. So changes are coming, not always easy in our lives, but those are good changes, because that will help us in the long run. So, all my love, guys, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast. Universe Podcast.
Studio